Welcome to Brain Bites, the bite-sized neuroscience podcast of the Ascend program, advancing STEM community engagement through neuroscience discovery. Brain Bites is a show designed to guide people of all ages through the mysterious, complex, and exciting world of neuroscience in short, digestible episodes. We're your hosts. I'm Dan Nemeth.
I'm Lorena Areal.
And today we have a very special guest, Mia. Welcome, Mia.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Mia is a student at Florida Atlantic University. She's getting her major in neuroscience and behavior, and she's also an amazing musician, which is awesome. I really admire that because I don't really play any instruments, although I still want to learn that at some point. But music is still so important to me and in my life. I mean, I honestly can't really think of anyone that doesn't like music, right?
Yeah, I love music. And there's definitely songs that they'll bring me back to days that I had some great, amazing times. I remember the one song that brings me back is Seven Nation Army. And it just reminds me of being in the football stadium, cheering on my Ohio State Buckeyes and just hanging out with my friends. And that's just a song that kept playing. And what great memories.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how we can relate music back to neuroscience, how we can create the relationship between music and the process of creating memories.
Yeah, and before we get into the connections between music and your brain and memory, we should probably touch back onto how the brain even processes sound.
Oh, you mean our auditory system?
Yeah, that. Remember, we actually covered that in one of our past episodes. I don't actually remember if it's podcast 1 or 2, but it's one of the senses podcasts.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's bring Mia in and she can remind us a little bit about how the auditory system works.
Yeah, so to get a sense of how the auditory system is run, you can imagine yourself in a scenario. So imagine you're on a stroll one morning and you start hearing the faint chirping of birds. These chirps are considered sound waves that eventually reach your eardrum, and they're transformed into mechanical vibrations. The middle ear has 3 little bones that sit right behind the eardrum, and they vibrate when the sound waves hit them.
Wait. Those 3 little bones in your ear, they're the smallest bones in our body, right? I mean, that's at least the last time I've heard of them.
Yeah, they even have these really weird nicknames that show how useful they are.
Oh, yes. The hammer, anvil, and stirrup.
Yes, ma'am. You nailed that one right on the head. Get it? Because hammer? So these bones knock around in your head a little, making these mechanical vibrations that then touch your inner ear's cochlea. I know. And no, not only does the cochlea sound a little funny, but it also looks a little funny. Structurally, the cochlea is a snail-shaped, fluid-filled, and hairy ear part that reacts to these vibrations by transforming the vibrations to a neural impulse.
Okay, so now that we have a vibrating hairy snail in our ears, how does our brain process this as a sound?
Okay. So I'm getting to it. These little hairs, which are not really hairs, but microscopic hair-looking cells, are shaking it up in there, and they individually convert their movement into electrical impulses carried by the cochlear nerve. These impulses move up the brainstem to the auditory cortex, which is just a fancy term for the sound processing system of the brain.
Oh, okay. But how do you tell, a dog barking from your phone ringing? Or how can you even understand the words that I'm saying? Or the lyrics to your favorite song? They're all so different.
Yeah, so that relationship between sound and meaning is a tricky thing. It's a really abstract idea that assigning it to very real cells and electrical signals makes it just really remarkable. But understanding sounds that they get associated with their meanings actually happens naturally. I remember when I was just starting to speak, we had a cat that I would just point to and call Meow. Our cat meowed, so whenever I heard her, I just associated the sound to what I thought she was. Of course, my mother later corrected me, but for those first few years, I created the association between the sound of Meow and my cat. So now being able to tell the difference between sounds all lies in the differences in pitch, tone, rhythm, intensity, and all those good traits of a sound. So, for example, Dan and Lorena, I completely comprehend that your voices are coming from 2 different sources because your voices sound different. But let's pretend that you both had the same exact voice, that there was no difference in the way you guys sound. Then how could I tell that the sound was coming from two different sources?
Well, because I'm on the right of you.
And because I'm on your left?
Exactly. Being able to identify the locations that sounds are coming from is called localization. And this helps in a lot of situations. You hearing your mom calling you to come downstairs for dinner, or hearing the doorbell ring all uses localization. This occurs because one ear receives the sound waves very, very slightly before the other ear receives it, so you know which direction it's coming from. But there's also a difference in pitch, tone, vocal inflections, and many more ways in which you guys' voices are different. This is the same way we can identify music from all other noises.
Yeah, I can definitely tell the difference between good music and whatever Lorena is making when she's working in the lab.
It's called singing. And don't act like I haven't heard you trying to rap in the hallways, Dan.
Yeah, I think she's got you there, Dan.
Oh, yeah. It's an art form.
But while Loretta's off-pitch singing or Dan's offbeat rapping might feel like noise rather than music, there are certain traits of music that can't be denied from their attempts. Music has a mathematical aspect to it where it follows a consistent beat, also known as a time signature to musicians, and it's usually harmonious. The beat can be identified as the drum leading the rhythm in the background of your favorite song, and harmoniousness can be identified by the right pairings of complementing tones. It's what makes a lot of melodies so catchy. There's also a way to dissect music. Music has singular tones, melodies, minor and major harmonies, and it follows a consistent pattern rhythmically and usually melodically. The sound of breaking glass can't be organized neatly because it's random, and the sound waves are sporadic because of this.
And all of these differences are perceived through the cochlea, like right in our ear?
Yeah, and then our auditory cortex categorizes this information so that we can distinguish music from noise.
So how come we remember some songs and then we forget others? Like, are songs that are more harmonious or rhythmically stronger more memorable than others?
Not exactly. The reason why we remember some songs better than others usually can't be traced back to one sole cause. People remember songs that they listen to more, songs that are more associated with important events or people, and music creates an emotional response from us. So songs that mean more to us usually stick better. There are songs that trigger a strong emotional responses from us, and they're therefore better remembered. Like, you know those songs you replay because they make you feel really good, or songs that remind you of a really good memory? The emotions felt in those memories heavily influence if you'll remember that song or possibly forget it. Memories where you can remember really specific details and events are called episodic memories. And it's been shown that music can actually improve the making of such memories because of that emotional relationship.
Yeah, and episodic memories triggered by emotionally stimulated music are stored unconsciously. So we don't really have to try to make up these memories. They just kind of happen. And the cool thing is that these are long-term memories too. Important memories that we describe to make up our life experiences are called our autobiographical memory. So when you think of the memories that have made up all the milestones in your life, the moments that mean a lot to you, the education or skills that you've gained throughout your life, maybe even some of the bad times, that's your autobiography, and that's your story.
Wow, I never knew music could be so important to our memories.
I know, right? It's super cool because not only does listening to music stimulate the making of memories, but playing music and composing music is also really stimulating for the neurons in our brain.
Really? Music can actually help your neurons?
Yeah. Musicians actually have been shown to have more gray matter in their frontal cortices of their brain in comparison to non-musicians. Gray matter is the easy term for cell bodies of the neurons. The more cell bodies in a region is correlated to more information processing. So in this case, they have more gray matter in the region well known for memory processing and verbal memory.
Sounds like I better start picking up an instrument then. There seems to be a lot of benefits of being able to make music and listen to it, especially in regards to memory making.
Definitely. And did you know we can actually use this information to help people? The main group of people that really need help with their memory formation and recollection are older individuals, especially those affected by neurodegenerative diseases. Neurodegenerative diseases are those that result in the deterioration of the nervous system structure and function. These diseases usually lead to symptoms such as memory loss, anxiety, forgetfulness, less behavioral control, and slower thinking.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because I know that at least Alzheimer's patients have an impaired episodic memory and other cognitive declines.
Yeah, exactly. And listening and creating music has been linked to the activation of areas of the brain that relate to memory. Music can be especially beneficial for those with these conditions.
Oh, yeah. So when you introduce music that the patients recognize from their past, it may allow them to remember the moments when they've heard it, the people they were around, somewhat of a snapshot of who they were in those moments, right?
Exactly. And there are several organizations that have provided music therapies to patients that have had great success. For example, there's the Music and Memory Program, the Music Heals Project, and Harmonies for the Elderly.
Wow, it's great to know that not only the music is just like fun and makes us feel really good, but it can actually help people that suffer from brain disorders in like many different ways.
Yeah, and while music interventions have been widely used, there's been some mixed results in the literature about its effectiveness in treating behavioral and cognitive symptoms. But a recent review study pointed that the outcomes might depend a lot on the intervention strategies. For example, in music therapy, patients are actively engaged in a musical activity versus music listening, and this technique focuses more on relaxation. Also, it depends if the type of music used in the intervention is individualized and familiar to the patient versus songs that might be random to them. Individualized playlists tend to yield greater benefits. These different approaches can lead to different results, but in general, music interventions are at least to some degree beneficial to the patients and even to their caregivers in consequence.
Right. So there's a range of benefits that can go from cognitive improvements to relieving symptoms of anxiety, depression, and general well-being of the patients.
Well, that's all time we have for today. Follow us on Instagram at ascend.program, Facebook at Ascend Program, on Twitter at program.ascend, and on TikTok at Ascend Program. If you have any questions, email us at ascendneuro@gmail.com. I'm Danny Nemeth.
I'm Lorena Areal.
And I'm Mia Amato.
Signing off till next time. Brain Bites was directed and produced by Dr. Lorena Areal, Danny Nemeth, and Mia Amato. Music by Max Hentosh. All this is made possible by the generosity of the Stiles Nicholson Foundation in coordination with Florida Atlantic University and Max Planck Florida Institute and the Scripps Research Institute of Florida.